Welcome to Awaken Soul with me, Kristen. This is the place to elevate unity consciousness and create the new earth. Are you awakened to your heart and soul led life? Are you seeking clarity, connection, and a deeper sense of purpose? You are not alone. You are part of a grand awakening, a collective shift that is transforming our world from the inside out. Join me each episode as we explore consciousness and spiritual evolution through inspiring conversations, wisdom teachings, and powerful activations. This is more than just a podcast. It's a sacred global community creating a new earth of unity, love, and freedom. So open your heart, get ready to be inspired, elevate in frequency, and awaken to your highest potential. The shift is here, and it all starts now. Hi, everyone. I'm Kristen Bilecki, and you are listening to Awaken Soul with Kristen on Transformation Talk Radio. Welcome, welcome. I am really delighted to share with you today connecting with your true voice. We're going through a powerful gateway of energy right now, supporting us in having this interconnection, a strong connection to ourself, a strong connection to our bodies. And so if you're feeling that, stick around for the next hour because I am going to share multiple levels and layers in my own story around connecting with my own inner voice and true voice. And so I hope this can be an opportunity to support you in what you're experiencing in coming alive in your freedom and your power and your connection, your strength, your courage, and who you are in listening to your inner voice, being able to speak your truth and have that expression and connection to your inner power as well. So, and also towards the end, you'll have an opportunity to ask questions or just share comments. So stick around for that as well. All right. So what is our true voice? And some of you may be thinking, yep, maybe I don't speak my true voice. Maybe I hesitate. Maybe I stifle myself, or maybe I, alter my words or thoughts, of how I'm going to share. Maybe there's that tension in the body when you want to speak. Maybe there's that discomfort of no one wants to hear what I have to say anyways, or maybe there's that connection of do I have value? Do my words, do my feelings, do my thoughts, does my expression even have value? Who wants to receive it? Does anyone even want to hear me? All those things that can come up and so much more, fear, feeling unsafe, feeling the doubt, feeling the confusion, and even having that confusion of what voice to listen to inside, right? There's these it's a lot. And right now through this Lion's Gate and through the full moon, did you feel that intensity of upwelling of energy and how we are feeling in our bodies, how we're feeling in our minds, how we're feeling in our emotions, what's surfacing? It definitely was another pass through a deeper level. What I was seeing was underneath the surface, there's this core piece that is you underneath the surface of everything in the greater field, the unified field, and in your own body. At the very core, there is you. And that core of yourself is where your true voice also is. And through this experience over the last, month or so, and I know we've been going through really powerful waves of energy over the past years and increasingly so, and it's just going to keep accelerating for a while as we really truly come into ourself. And what I was noticing through this particular gateway was a lot of people choosing like, wow, I really need to start to let myself feel my true feelings, hear my thoughts, speak my truth, really come open with the voice. And where that begins is inside, in that core place. That's where the true voice comes from. That's the voice of your heart. That's the voice of your soul. That's the voice of your frequency, our voice, our words, our intention, our energy. That is what creates this reality. along with our thoughts and our emotions. So when we bring our thoughts and emotions into form through our words, our spoken words, because thoughts and emotions really are energy, right? Really are energy until we express them, right? Anything is energy until it's expressed, even our own bodies. It's energy until our soul comes into a physical form, and then we're here having this expression as a soul in form, right? And so even just when you create something, it's a concept until you make it into something, right? And it comes into form. And so with our thoughts and emotions and our words, it's the spoken creation. Just like in the Bible, God spoke and, created. And I'm not going to bring it in a religious context here. It's just that's a metaphysical principle. That's a divine law. That's a natural law. That sound is frequency, vibration, and it brings things into form. So our true voice is the voice that's speaking through us all the time, all the time. And are we listening? Are we receiving? Are we open to it? Can we decipher it under from all the other thoughts and ideas and conditions and programs that have overlaid that core part of ourself that is that core truth? And so it's not to invalidate all the other thoughts and emotions and feelings and ideas and beliefs and programs because they've all had their place to allow us to get to know ourselves in what our true voice is. And so, this world and building on duality, it's contradiction, it's comparing, it's this or that. And through our experiences of life, we realize, ooh, I align more with that. And ooh, I don't like that. And all those things. And what makes my body feel good? What makes it not feel good? Like what actually is the frequency, the feeling, the experience of life that we really want to have or wants to be expressed through us. And so getting in tune with the inner voice is a delicate, tender, incredibly powerful process. And I've had my own experience with this too. I say this a lot. If someone told me I'd be doing this, sitting here speaking in front of people, in the groups that I lead and the sessions and the mentorships and the online meditations and all of those things that I do, and speaking in front of strangers through this device of the computer that I don't even know who is listening and don't have that one-on-one contact, I'd be like, you're crazy. There's no way that I feel even confident or comfortable enough or in my in any sort of self-esteem or self-love or self-value enough to express myself on this level in front of anybody. And so I know some of you may be able to relate to that because it is, what an amazing process to subvert the human condition, the human expression, the soul expression in this life, but to hamper our voice, hamper our power, right? Of what we get to bring into form. And, I think about this a lot, and I used to talk about this a lot, in my groups some years ago was communication is everything. Communication is everything. If we think about it, communication is happening all the time on so many different levels. I mean, we think about all the processes that are happening in our body, the communication that's happening just for me to move my arms and my fingers, but let alone all the other processes that are happening all at once. And each one of us, it's happening for each one of us. The nature, even just all this digital communication now, all the stuff going through the wires, all the stuff coming from the planets to the earth and from the earth to the planets. I mean, there's so much communication constantly happening that allows us to even be in this existence, right? It is constant information passing through. And so we think about how our reality is laid out, right? And if we're looking at communication, we're looking at communications as what forms our reality. Then thinking about that just in our own world, our own body, our own experience. What is the true way that we're in communication with ourself, that we're in communication with our body, our soul, our heart, our mind, our, even the bacteria in our gut, all of that. How are we in communication with ourself? That it's allowing us to have a creation, a being, and a place of connection to ourself in this reality. And, we've gone through so much in our lives of, oh, people, maybe judging us. And so then we judge ourselves, or maybe as children, we're, it's seen and not heard, or not even seen, maybe seen and not heard, all of those things. And maybe bullied, or, being told you had to talk a different way, or being shushed a lot, or being told to be quiet, or, the ways that we have been suppressed, repressed, oppressed through our voice is astonishing to me when I look at it on a bigger scale, on a bigger picture, right? And so then how do we even have the concept that we have a voice, or that there is a voice that's different than what we already speak and what we already say and what we already feel, right? I mean, it's just really a profound process. And what I'm seeing right now is we're moving through this powerful energy of transition and change on this planet. What could change reality really quickly? Us getting into our center, into our body, listening to ourselves, speaking that, feeling that, and even just speaking it to ourselves and our thoughts and our emotions and our experience. Then our frequency shifts, our energy shifts, our life shifts, the world shifts, right? I mean, that's so powerful. This is where our power lies. And even in the yogic tradition, something that I've been a part of for more than half my life, is, this is the throat chakra, the voice is a powerful gateway through the central channel. I mean, we have each, energy center, but this is a powerful gateway that allows that energy that is coming up from as we start to move through, the energy centers. When we get to the heart's one of the major energy centers. The sacral's a major energy center. The heart, all of them are major, but this is a plane right here of our throat area, where when we are in touch with our heart, then can we connect with our voice to speak through from our heart, from that space. And then when it is open and we have that power gateway open, then wow, the pineal and the crown, and then boom, we are in line, we're connected. But first we got to start where? We got to start at our root. We got to start with our sacral, because the sacral and the throat are really tied into each other. And what I really appreciated is if you were, present for this, or just knew that it was happening in the Unity Consciousness event, there were 7 speakers, 8, and plus myself, so 8 speakers. But there were conversations, and several conversations that happened during that in July. There was the throat, the voice. It was a part of the conversation, and I'm watching it open even more. And I'm really curious of what your experience is right now. You can throw email on the website, on the Transformation Talk Radio website, any questions or comments that you have. There's an email there, and you can email them in. If you're listening through the website, there's an email. So I'd love to hear what's happening for you, because if we think about it, that's our inner landscape, our inner voice, our true voice is our inner landscape, is our inner relationship of ourself. And for me, my inner landscape was full of doubt, full of judgment, full of fear, full of anger, full of discomfort, discomfort in my own skin, discomfort with being around people. And, I growing up, we had, I would say, a fairly good growing up if you were looked at it economically, if you looked at it, that we had everything we needed. Yet there wasn't a lot of what I would feel quality communication. And I don't judge my parents at all for this, because I look at their upbringing and man, they had even way, 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 way less of good communication happening in their fields. And so as we look at this generationally, those of us who are here to create this change on the planet, whew, we go through this awareness, this consciousness of, developing this self-connection and awareness and knowing ourselves and going through these growth processes, going through these transformations. And so I've had to go through and look at all of these places, in my own childhood and even past lives where, the throat, the voice was totally not connected in the way that we are able to learn how to connect with it now and support our future generations and having this experience. So for me, there was a lot of reprimand, there was a lot of uh, not wanting to hear what I had to say. I felt that's how I took it. That's how I felt, right? I'm not sure what it was like for my parents because we all have our unique experience, right? And so sometimes, we get to talk with our parents or family like, I didn't really have that experience, but maybe they're just not aware and so what we get to do through this process, I'm going to share more of my story, but what we get to do through this process that I've learned is to take accountability and responsibility. Take accountability and responsibility of what we chose to come through, what channel of energy and experiences we chose to come through, so that we can then shift from maybe blame and come into, oh, wait, wow, all right. And then maybe we get to move through our own shame and guilt and those types of things of taking these things on in ourselves and maybe living with them for how many years of our life, right? And then start to change. But for me, I was bullied, for 3 years in school, starting in fourth grade. And that really took a toll on my whole ability to connect with myself and feel that feel I had low self-esteem. I started putting myself down. I was really angry. I didn't even know how to communicate to my parents or anybody else that this was happening. And sometimes if I retaliated, because I get angry and I would retaliate if someone was bullying me, and then I'd get in trouble because, maybe and so it was just this whole process of hampering my connection to myself. And then at a young age, I also felt like I didn't belong here and like what's happening on this planet, I don't get it. It doesn't feel like home. And I know a lot of you can relate to that, right? And so what I had to learn over the years, and yoga helped with this, and meditation when I started as a teenager, because I got exposed to it, was slowing down, taking the moments to really connect into what I was feeling. And I was feeling a lot of discomfort. I was feeling a lot of anger. I was feeling a lot of frustration towards people in life, right? And then I had to reverse that and say, okay, if I'm really going to do this work, and through my 20s and my 30s, it was a great process, a huge process to really start to relate to myself and even listen to what I was actually feeling or thinking. And that's where it starts. Your true voice is what you're feeling and what you're thinking. And then how you feel about what you're thinking and feeling, right? So there's these layers. There's the constant thoughts and emotions that are happening. And when we can acknowledge them and take time to go, okay, I'm thinking this, I'm feeling this, and then sit in that reflective observational process of, okay, wow, that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm feeling. Is that really my truth? Right? This is that process of really connecting with the self, really connecting with the self, with yourself, with your body. How's my body feeling? And then, taking it through these stages of, wow, that's what I'm thinking, acknowledging what you're thinking and feeling, and then going, wow, where do I feel that in my body? Ooh, my body's feeling tense over here. Huh? What am I holding in my body here? And that's when we start to open up that listening, that receiving, that willingness to start to have that connection with the self, that self inquiry, so that we can allow the energy to flow, so that that core place within us has a place to speak through. And so we have that core place that's within us that has our truth, that knows our truth, that is ourself, that can be that subtle voice that we hear, those subtle nudges or sensations that we feel throughout life, that maybe we didn't pay attention to because it wasn't as big as the rest of the noise around us or in our head. So, what is that? I can't trust that, right? And I'm going to get into that a bit later, the whole trust process and how to connect further with the voice, that inner voice. But we have that core place within us that holds and flows the beautiful vibration and frequency of our soul, of source, of who we truly are within us all the time. It's present all the time, underneath and through all the other things that are going on. And so that's what we do through our self-inquiry and transformation process, is start to unlayer. And sometimes those layers are pretty stubborn, right? Sometimes they're pretty persistent. And they stay because we've given them so much energy. We've given them so much of our time and our space and our vibration, right? We've given so much power over to them that we get to start to unwind those experiences. And where do we get to then start to go? We then start to root into, and we're getting back to the energy centers again, right? Then when we start to get to know ourselves, then maybe some of us have different areas that pop up. Maybe the heart's the one that pops up first, or maybe the root does, or maybe the sacral or the solar plexus is where we're holding a lot of this energy in our first attention. But what happens when we listen to ourselves? We get more into our body. We get more into our body. Whew, and then that can open up a whole nother can of worms, right? Because then we start to really feel what we feel in our body. And maybe that doesn't feel good, or maybe it's been unsafe to get into the body. So opening up to our voice, like I said, can be a tender, delicate process because it takes us into that place where we really get to face ourselves, where we really get to face ourselves and all the experiences of life that have led us to not be in our true voice. And like I said, I went through a major process through my 20s and my 30s. I mean, I had so many skills, in my early 20s. There was no way though that I was going to start a business. I might do things here and there with my friends and do whatever, but there was no way that I felt confident enough to even say, "Oh, this is me. I know, this is, the skills that I have. I'm intuitive and I can do energy healing and all these things." It's like there was no way that I feel that I could share that in a bigger way besides the people that were around me. Right. And even then, that was kind of uncomfortable. And so we get to go into this place of this came up in a session the other day, and I find it really profound. And I'm going to keep going layers in the process of, what happens after we start to get into our body and our power and our voice. But someone brought something up in a session that was really powerful. It's like, what's the cost benefit to holding on to maybe the fears or the unsafety or the discomforts? What's the cost benefit? Because something came to me when I was going through what I wanted to share today. And I realized what I was really feeling every time that I stifled myself, every time that I hesitated, every time that I didn't share my voice or share what I was really feeling, and or any time that I pushed any of my own feelings down in my own body, right? Or any of my own thoughts or those inspirations or those motivations, right? Those things that come alive, anytime that I even just stifled it within my own self, let alone speak it out in the world, I felt like I died a little bit. I felt like I died a little bit. And it just took me a moment like, whoa, whew, wow, that's rich. It's a rich place to notice in myself. And because did you notice the difference of when you stifle yourself or you hesitate or you say no to yourself, and then when you say yes to yourself, the difference in that energy? It is. It's like life versus death in a big way. And so I really had to sit with that for a moment, because how many times do we do that in our life? How many times do we say no to ourselves for anything, let alone just speaking our voice? Just one aspect of life is our voice, right? And so really, what is that cost benefit of saying, all right, whew, do I want to continue to allow myself this? And I know that can be a really big choice. It was a huge choice for me. It was a huge choice for me to then say, you want to know, no matter what, I'm going to start speaking my truth. Because I noticed that I would start just saying white lies, because no one wanted to hear what I had to say. I felt like I had this story that no one wanted to hear. So I would just say what people wanted me to say, that I thought that I wanted, that they, excuse me, that I thought that they wanted to hear. Right. And then at one point in my early 20s, I was around 24, I was like, wait a minute. Oh my goodness. I can't do that anymore. I got to start speaking my truth. And then once I made that choice, it was quite a ride for several years. And hopefully for you, it'll happen, much quicker. And maybe you've been on your journey yourself. And for me, I'm still on it. Like even before coming on today, I'm like, okay, just feeling a little bit of that nervousness of, is it going to come out clear? Am I going to share clearly? All of those things. And so it's still a journey. The self-knowing, the self-growth process is a continued journey of self-connection, self-growth. And so to connect with your inner voice is that place of power, and connection to say yes to yourself. Yes to yourself in a way that goes and penetrates so deep into your core that everything starts to surface. Everything starts to come alive to show you where we haven't been connected with the voice, with the self. And then that's an intense process. But I will say it's the most rewarding and worthy process ever. It is. And even though things still show up for me, and I know someone was sharing with me recently, is like, oh, I'm so sick of it. I'm so sick of these same things showing up, right? It's like, I totally get it. I totally get it. It's so irritating and frustrating when some of those things keep popping up. But guess what? Over time, they do. They'll keep showing up. They still show up for me. But then we can have more of an adaptability. We have more awareness of how to work with them. And more we polish them, we smooth them, we refine ourselves, we refine our response. And that's what we do with our voice as we connect with ourself and our inner deep moments of, okay, I'm going to be honest and truthful with how I feel, with what I think, with what's happening, and how my body feels and how I'm responding to life. Then guess what? Then that even refines how we are going to use our actual voice with other people in the physical world, right? Because a lot of times when we talk about, oh, your true voice, automatically, what do? We think about external. We think about how our voice is going to sound, what we're going to say to people, how people are going to respond. But our true voice starts inside. It's the inner journey. It's the inner journey. And then we get to practice as we go, of speaking our voice and our truth with others. And maybe it just starts with friends or close people to us, because that's where we can feel safe and it's more of a trusting experience. But what I was saying, and so we're going to get into that. And so what happens is then we get into our body, right? When we start to do that, when we start to have that present moment with the self, to be honest with the self and listening to what's actually happening and feeling to what's actually happening, our body, our nerve system can actually start to say, okay, there's actual communication happening here. Because what is the nerve system? It's communication. So if we're always in that fight or flight, or in that fear, or holding that space of tension, of discomfort, of maybe the self-esteem parts, the self-value, like we don't know how, or we're not connected, and there's that tension there in the nerve system, it's going to be lit up all the time, and it's going to be uncomfortable. So then our reactions or our responses are not going to be grounded and in the body, even with ourself, right? So that first place is to get into the body, is to get into the body and say, okay, I'm here. I'm here, self. I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to connect. And then not get hypersensitive or expecting or confused about, oh, is that my inner voice or not my inner voice? It's really just tuning into what's actually there right here, right now. And then just by doing that, you're signaling that core part of yourself. You're signaling your subconscious. You're signaling that place that there's an opening, that there's an opening. And so it comes with patience and not rushing the process. It comes with patience to say, okay, I'm here, I'm listening, I'm present, I'm willing. And maybe through that, emotions come up, discomfort comes up because of what's actually being held. And then we go through that wave after wave, experience after experience to allow the self to empty itself out of all that energy that we've been holding inside. Like for me, sometimes it would come out angry, or it would come out in such a rush of words, or such a, kind of because I've been holding so much inside. And so we just get to watch ourselves go through the process and the experience, right? And go, okay, whew, what qualities? And so what does that connect us then with? After we start to go, okay, I can maybe start to get into my body, then it connects us with our sacral, our creative power. Our creative power, the throat and the sacral are intimately entwined. Because if our power, what power are we expressing? What energy are we expressing? What are we creating in the world through our words? And this is why, it's very incredible to pay attention to what we say and how we say it. And then that becomes the next process, of going, okay, I'm listening to myself. I'm hearing the way my voice speaks to me. And can I, through this process, learn to have more compassion with myself, more forgiveness, more just connection? Can I accept that this is how I've been thinking, how I've been feeling, how I've been moving, how I've been experiencing life? Right? And then can I have the awareness in the moment when I'm doing that and going, is that how I really want to continue? And if not, how do I want to continue? What quality of being? And it's not necessarily the behavior first that we want to shift, it's tuning into a quality of being that we want to have. Maybe it's patience, maybe it's more presence, maybe it's learning to just, take some pauses and just feel into that and breathe and tune into that quality of maybe I just want to feel more relaxed or more at peace, or maybe I'm just going to invite courage in. Maybe I'm going to invite strength in. Maybe I'm going to invite calmness in, so that we can start to meet the energy that's within us with an energy that can balance it out, right? And then when we start to do that, then that can start to formulate new behaviors because we're with our mind directing our energy. And then our voice, that inner voice, can have a space. And the inner voice is that space that's knows, honestly, it's kind of crazy, but knows that we're okay. We're okay. And maybe it's going to bring some information, and maybe you hear it here, maybe you hear it in your head, maybe you hear it in your heart, maybe it's just a sensation in your body, or maybe your inner voice starts to just reflect things in your life and show you certain words or colors or interactions with people to give you your messages, right? And so just being able, so maybe shifting from the idea too that it's just listening, like actual hearing with your ears, because sometimes we receive differently. All of us receive differently. Maybe, maybe we have clairs, maybe we can sense things, maybe we can see things, maybe we do hear things, or maybe we have visions or image, just different ways that we experience, right? And so it's a lot, isn't it? It's a lot. And like I said, it's a delicate, tender process, because one of the other things that I've noticed, and this starts to happen when we move into noticing how we're working with our sacral, and maybe we have a lot of wounding in our wombs or in our reproductive organs of how we've connected with life through sexual interactions or sensual interactions or any of that, that's how we thought we had, we used our power, right? Or how power was used because of this world shows us that. And then we go, wait, no, this is actually my sacred power, my sacred energy. Whew, I'm gonna breathe. I'm gonna like connect with that and go, wow, I'm gonna do my womb healing or my inner sensuality, sexuality, whatever it is. And then we move into the solar plex. And that's where the solar plexus, and that's where we start to the ego, the identity, the self, the will, and how strong we are, and how maybe the stubbornness or the scaredness, the fear of actually how we interact with reality or how we're going to reflect with reality. And this is where that concept that I was just about to share is like communication has become confrontation. And it's something that, I studied nonviolent communication, and it just been in a lot of group processes from my activist years and other experiences where there was a lot of group processing. And it wasn't easy for me, right? Because I was stifled in my voice. I was stifled in feeling that confident and actually sharing what I was actually thinking, what I was actually feeling because of how it was going to be received, or no one wanted to hear it, right? Just like I'm sure you can relate to that. But also, we have been taught in some ways that communication is confrontation. Because if I'm going to share what I'm going to feel, then somebody else is not going to agree, or it's going to be resisted, or someone's going to have a reaction, right? Instead of us coming into a place of life is just communication, and why can't we just speak what we feel and have conversations? And so that's the culture I would like to create by coming into that space of that healing, of connecting to our true voice, connecting to that space where, and our our truth through our personality in the solar plex, as you may notice, changes over time as we get clearer, as we go through our transformation processes, as we get to know our personality and our soul self, that true self, there is a place where we start to go, oh wow, yeah, these are my conditioned self. And ooh, I'm starting to feel this new energy that feels more myself. And maybe there's times where I remember actually feeling that way as a child in these little glimpses or in these other parts of my life, or when I get inspired or when I am feeling creative or I am feeling in that, heightened joy or connection and inspiration, right? And so that's where we get to dance. And that's when we start to go, oh, maybe I can open my heart to those spaces, right? That dance of who we are based on life's experiences and who we are, because that's who we are as a soul and our truth and our body and who we came here to be, and that real frequency of ourself. And we start to dance with that. And it'll be a continual dance throughout life because we're in the world, right? Where we are having interactions and reflections, and we're still maybe working through those conditions or questioning of what this world is and how to be in this world while we're developing our presence. And when we can open our heart to that, we can open our heart to our presence, then that place of grace, that place of forgiveness or compassion or openness can start to happen, to where we can say, okay, I can feel this energy enough to where I'm going to start to speak my truth. I'm going to start to feel the words that actually feel more resonant with who I am. I'm going to start to let it out. And then it's practice. Like for me, it was big practice. People used to tell me all the time, why are you so vague? When I first started to really play with connecting with myself, even when I started to lead groups and stuff, I was like, wow. I could have put a little more detail in there, broken it down, but I was still working through how to even articulate, how to even take the words from my brain and the words from my inner self, the words from my heart, the words from my body, and deliver it into the world. It was just like, whoa, it felt really wonky, And so this is where we get to have this creative process with ourselves and start to play or start to write. That helped me too. Journaling helped a lot because I was like able to get it out, at least go, oh, that's the word that I would use, just having some sort of creative expression or maybe dance or movement that helps get the energy moving, and with the exploration or making sound, and just like using sound in our vocal cords to warm up that vibration and feeling into the heart, even, or just when we're having emotions, letting it have a sound or a movement that gets that energy flowing to where all that core place within us gets to start, like I said earlier, to have an expression. And then boom, when these our throat opens, woo, then we even have more of a capacity. Because I know for myself, my third eye was blasted open and I still wasn't connected to my throat, but then in my voice, and I was, super intuitive, can see a lot. And then it was the process of opening the throat. So it can go in either direction, right? And sometimes it goes in a meandering directions, right? Of, I'm feeling, working on the root or working on the sacral, working on the pineal, working on the heart, working on the throat. This is where we get to start to trust, as I was saying earlier, we get to start to trust the process of how, and there's no ones, there are specific programs we can use. Like some people have, things that they use to open the voice, right? And that are really supportive, or going through the yogic process or working through the energy centers and things like that. But it's also trusting what you're feeling in your own body. And when you start to trust, when you've actually started to listen to yourself and slow down and listen to your voice, and then again bringing in those qualities of being and the ways, and that compassion of like, yep, I know we've been holding that for a long time, I know we've been saying things like that for a long time, I know we've been feeling that way for a long time, and here we are. I'm aware, I'm present, and now let's meet it with this. Then guess what? Then everything just starts to move in its own way. And then you get to start to trust the feelings and the sensations and the openings that start to come alive in your own body that will foster your own process of how your voice really starts to flow and come alive and move. And maybe the sound of your voice changes, maybe your cadence changes, maybe your tone changes, maybe you can start to feel more comfortable in your body. Like, wow. Because I know for me, what was really fascinating is as I was going through that process, it was like the more embodiment started to happen. I could relax in my body. I could be relaxed when I spoke instead of speaking and then feeling all tense and then questioning everything I said and then processing, thinking, did I say that right? What are they thinking? Oh my gosh, and having all this like back and forth going on, that inner, back and forth of even just speaking a sentence, right? And so this is a process where we get to unwind and get through and say, okay, I know doubt, I know fear, I know that feeling of unsafety that's coming up. And again, how much am I willing? How much would I really, what could it's possible to feel and experience through opening myself to that deep inner connection, that deep inner connection that's underneath all that stuff. And then over time, it's like the matter, the form that all that stuff has taken up and all that space that stuff has taken up that was the conditions of our personality that we've been talking about, in relationship to that true inner self starts to become less tangible. It's still there. Maybe there's still some energy there, but we can move through it easier. It's less dense, right? It starts to have its own, we can breathe with it. We can move with it. And so this is an incredible process of courage. It's an incredible process of saying yes to the self and saying, how much am I willing to keep moving forward this way? Right? Can I gather the strength, the trust, find the outlets, the ways, the people, the spaces, the information, whatever that I can surround myself with, and internally, every time I have this thought, I'm going to balance it with this thought. Every time I have this feeling, I'm going to welcome this feeling and balance it out and balance it out. And this is what it's really about. Our center channel, our voice is about balanced presence. And then we get to refine even more. Is this even the place to speak this? We get to go into the subtleties of, like, for myself, it's like now it's like I want to say something like, I can feel that the energy isn't quite right for it. And I wait till it is. And then sometimes, it's just being human, boom, like it comes out and then, you deal with the results of that. Here we are in this place right now as an opportunity to what would it feel like? What would it feel like? Maybe just take a moment right now. What would it feel like to be in more connection with myself? What would it feel like to be able to be more present with my own thoughts, my own feelings, acknowledging them, accepting them, and then allowing that energy to move and show me what's there in it? There's so much information, and all that information that we've gathered through our conditions, through our programs, there's still a spark of us within all of that because it's been our energy that's been perpetuating them, right? And so what we're really doing is, so it's not about, oh, I got to get rid of it. It's more of like, can I extract the essence of myself from all of that and then let that whew, start to fade, start to, have a different place in my space. So if we're willing to have the courage to say, yes, this has been me, this is how I've been expressing, and I know there's another me that's more true to me that I'm inviting to meet these spaces where I'm feeling disconnected or where I'm feeling doubt or where I'm feeling confusion. So this connection is an invitation, a deep invitation for that part of yourself to start to emerge, start to show you yourself in that way. And then what's really amazing through that is a lot of times we can recognize it like, whoa, yeah, I know that sensation or that feeling. I'm going to start moving with that. I'm going to start speaking from that. I'm going to start feeling from that place. And with our intention, with our intention, with our attention, with our devotion, we can continue to move with that. How much of myself do I really want to have this experience of myself in life? Right? So how much am I willing to connect? Sometimes maybe we get to be really connected with ourselves through touch. So we, massage our throat and say hi, and or our neck or any places where we feel that tension in our body. This is where that connection with our true voice is also all the connection that we can have with ourselves through our thoughts, our feelings, our touch, our senses, all of it. It's not just in our heads, it's not just energy in our bodies, it's also the physical way we're going to choose to relate to ourselves and care for ourselves and be in relationship with ourselves. So if you have any comments or questions, you can email them in. I'd love to hear what you're experiencing. So the true voice is that core place within you, right? The true core place within you that is within and underneath all of our experiences of life. And our great strength and our great courage and our great embodiment and power is our voice to speak into creation who we are, what we want our life to be, or just naturally what wants to come through us. Sometimes I'm going to maybe retract that a little bit. Not exactly what we want, because sometimes what we want is not exactly what's aligned, and that can be a little challenging sometimes too. So it's really connecting with that voice inside that's speaking what is really here. Am I willing to listen to it? Am I willing to feel it? Am I willing to sense it? Am I willing to invite it into this space and go through the growth and the learning processes of what it is that's going to allow me to feel more comfortable, more safe, more courageous, more trusting of myself and allow that to come through. And so allowing that alignment of the heart and the sacral and the power and the whole center channel of my body to flow, to be in that balanced expression, to be in that balanced creation of life with myself. And so when we get to ask ourselves these questions and we get to tune into that, then we get to start to see maybe where we can adjust in life, what we want to do. And so through that, I was guided. I want to say thank you for being here and allowing share with that. And so maybe you just take some time today. Know that your power is in you. Your power is here right now. Your true voice is here right now. Take a deep breath into that and allow that invitation and that knowingness and that acceptance. Maybe place a couple hands on your body or on your throat or on your sacral and your throat or your heart and your throat, wherever feels comfortable, and just say, I'm here. And I know my soul and my true voice is here too. I'm willing. I'm open. And I'm happy to be with you, voice. I'm happy to be with you, body, and be present through all these experiences. So I wanted to share that, through my sessions and soul embodiment mentorships and all of that, this is where we get to explore. This is where we get to open. This is where we get to allow the support through those changes, through those transformations, through those challenges, the traumas, the woundings, those core places that are so powerful as your unique, brilliant self, to start to meet all of those places of the conditioned person, to then start to mold and create and allow and move with that transformation, to be in the power, to be in your true voice. And also I wanted to share with you this coming October, I'm really excited to be sharing an immersion, what I call, rather than a retreat, but it is like a retreat here in Hot Springs, Arkansas, where we get to gather for a few days. Let's see, it's going to be 5 full days of being on the crystalline land here to unwind, relax, connect in, and get in touch with that true voice, get in touch with that connection with ourself, and see where we get to really celebrate ourselves, celebrate our voice, celebrate our true energy, celebrate that through the experiences of life, and have a great time digging crystals and going out on the crystal and beautiful lake that we have here, and also just connecting with other amazing souls that are on this journey and amplifying our frequency and energy of our true self, of our true voice, of our true being. So inviting you to that. You can go to awakensoul.net, go to events, and then see the embodied Temple of Light immersion there. If you want to join us, you can set up a connect call with me so we can see if this is in your highest alignment to be with us. I'd love to support. This is my passion, and maybe you can feel that because of my own journey and experience. It's my passion to see others alive in their being and truly feeling free in that experience more and more and more. It's so inspiring to watch the changes and transformations we get to go through. So join us. That's October 8th through the 14th in Hot Springs, Arkansas. And if you just want to get connected to receive energy updates and that, you can go to awakensoul.net and subscribe to receive all the other offerings that come through. And I also share energy updates of what I'm receiving from the earth, the land, the cosmos, the stars, and what we're going through right now, and support. So so please join me here. So I hope you have a wonderful week. We come together every first and third Wednesday of the month at 9 a.m. Pacific for an hour. And next time, September 3rd, I'm going to have Vivian Chalvet. She's the Arcturian ambassador. We're going to have an incredible conversation because I've had my own connections with Arcturians, and they're profound beings that are supporting this process on this planet right now. And so we'll have her as a guest. And so I hope you have a wonderful week, and may you take the time to be present with yourself, to slow down, to listen, to feel, and to honor all that you are, and give yourself the grace and the beauty and the love to be in connection and go through your own transformational process, to have your freedom and your truth and your joy. So much love for you. Have a wonderful week, and I look forward to being here with you next time. Be well. Thank you for joining Awakened Soul, your place to elevate unity consciousness and to create the new earth. Join me, Kristen Bilecki, every first and third Wednesdays, 9 a.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio. For more information and to connect with me, go to awakenedsoul.net. Explore how I can support you on your awakening journey through my online gatherings, sessions, and mentorships. Don't miss a show. Subscribe now to take the steps towards a more awakened, heart and soul-led life. Until next time, live, love, laugh, and be free.